Welcome to The People I Know, a philosophical podcast with and about the diverse people I've met over the years as an African American female thinker, teacher, dog lover, off grid enthusiast, and all kinds of other good things. Today's guest is a good friend, pole dancing, food loving doctoral student in clinical psychology, Tracey Slonim. I hope you enjoy. Officially, I would like to begin with a land acknowledgement. We pay our respect to the elders, both past and present, of the Tonkawa, Sana, Hualapai, and Mojave lands on which we live and do this work. Did a little research of where you are. So this represents your land there in Texas and out here in the Arizona desert. So welcome.
Thank you.
to
I
the
actually
show.
recognized a couple, not that I know a lot about that, but I recognized a couple of those tribes and I was like, do we have similar tribe
Oh,
lands?
not that I saw. No overlap for this distance, but
Okay.
for folks who would like more information, I will put the links underneath the video for the tribes that do have websites. 3 of them do that I was able to find. So if you do want to have some more information, get some more information and see what's going on with them nowadays, you can do that. We can do that.
Yeah. My name is Tracey, and I am a doctoral student in clinical psychology at Texas A&M University. And most of what I'm doing is homework. Um, no, I'm also researching normal or the normal aging process, specifically looking at the cerebellum and trying to kind of figure out if there are indicators of neurodegeneration in healthy aging. And so maybe we can figure out if there's Alzheimer's disease or something else going on before you're starting to get symptoms of like memory loss and stuff like that. And we're currently looking at sex differences in terms of estrogen and longitudinal studies to see if there's like different structural or functional trajectories with your brain over time and if there's an influence of estrogen or not, because there's a higher rate of women getting Alzheimer's disease, and this is above and beyond survivor effects. So that's kind of what I'm researching. And yeah, I think it's really cool. I get to look at brains, so I get excited. And yeah, and then I'm learning on the other side of the coin how to administer therapy, and I feel like it's training me to be a better human. So it's like good human training.
Nice.
Yeah.
Learning about the other people in other ways. So you and I met originally in a pole class.
Right, that part.
That part. Yeah, you came in to take some classes and I was teaching, and a beautiful friendship has blossomed.
Yes,
Um,
I can give some more
yeah.
backstory on that if you want.
Oh gosh. So I was thinking, like, getting ready this morning. I was thinking you are one of the people that I have so many, like, you remember the time, like, story
Yes,
that started my
we
head.
yeah, there's a lot of those. There's
Oh gosh.
yes, you were one of the best teachers at Pole Sensations, which you might not see as a compliment, but I didn't know that much at the time, so I was like, okay, I'm only buying this package, like this class package, if Z's gonna be there, because like I mean, like, we can go for some other people and that's fine, but this is why I'm going. Yeah, and
Aw.
then the like a few months, I think, or weeks, I'm not sure, into me being there, there was like a showcase coming up, and each instructor was allowed to pick a student to showcase with, and I was like, hoping you choose me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You finally did, and I was like, who, me?
That sounds
Of
so
course.
doesn't even sound like, which yes, you can see. I can put the link to that video down below as
Oh
well. Really
man,
cool performance. One of my favorites to go back and
good,
watch.
good. I'm
Yeah.
glad it's stood the test of time. I was like, I
Yeah.
remember us practicing and me being on the
Yeah.
spin pole and being like, yep,
Nope.
can't do any more than this.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. That's it's funny. Oh wow. And it's not that, my other friends I don't have stories. It's just I frankly don't remember many stories past like 7 years ago. It's just so much life has been lived. But also one of my favorite things with you is one of my favorite photographs of all time. One of my favorite pole doubles things. There's one of my favorite moments with you is a picture of us doing doubles in the San Diego, that park over by where I used to live. Truly one of my favorite
oh
photographs, just
yeah,
like
the
ever.
that shoot.
Yeah, yeah.
The
Just,
magic hour shoot.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like a perfect capture. I mean, that's why it's a magic hour. So it's like you're free and I'm free, and it's just really nice
That was
moment.
amazing. Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
so yeah.
I've
We know
wanted
each
to
other.
do one of I don't think I've ever done a magic hour shoot. It's called that, right? The
Yeah,
magic
yeah,
hour?
yeah.
I
Because
haven't
you
done
only
one of
got
those since, and I've wanted to because that was so good. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
Remember
whenever
when
you come out here, uh-huh.
we did that doubles class where I kicked you in the face?
Yeah, yeah, I do because I think I was sorting through videos and I'm like, oh, there it is. I
There it is.
rewatch it.
It
I
was
totally
so
rewind it.
beautiful right before that part where I kicked you in the face.
It's like you can't even tell, but like clearly when you've been kicked in the face. So
Mhm.
it's fine. It's totally fine.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. To more serious things.
Right.
Yes,
Do
so
it.
this is the season of white women, you white women in my life.
Oh, and
And
you're like, I'm like, uh-oh. Doesn't sound good.
no, no, no. And so, no, this has been great. So far, I've already had a few conversations, and the next few conversations, everybody's really excited about this. Really good stuff is coming out. So, just want to start by asking you why and when your whiteness matters, and if you find it relevant. I did also want to kind of touch on like you are Jewish, have Jewish heritage. So, how does that play into things as far as whiteness? Yeah, you can just run with that.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of it's interesting that you asked this because the whole first part of this semester that was like my project or I mean I had like a few weeks of like explore your own identity and in what ways are you privileged, in what ways like have you been the minority, um and yeah, I would say like being Jewish made me, I don't know, if I were to describe it, it feels like passing. Like no one, I mean, you look at me and you can maybe guess, but like no one knows for sure that I'm Jewish and I can like live normally. And honestly, for the most part, it doesn't make much of a difference. But I think as a kid, I felt like I could have belonged a little more. I realized recently I probably like renounced the religion a lot more because it set me apart from people and you don't want to be like apart if you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, I had to go to Hebrew school, Sunday school, and it's a really like there's a lot of cool parts of the culture in terms of um, the family that I grew up with and the traditions that we have, but yeah, I don't really practice anymore. I'm more culturally Jewish, and it's kind of, for lack of better words, like a downer religion. Like it's just very sad and dramatic, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all about, like, we are martyrs, and um, things have been hard. It's kind of like Irish people with the potato famine. It's like, come on, I get it. We were there. That was bad. There's genocides all over the place. There's
Mm-hmm.
still genocides. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I get that that is a big deal, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe like we can move on a little bit, not hold so many
Mm-hmm.
grudges. Like, I kind of hated Germans when I was in middle school. Um,
Why?
I've been taught about the Holocaust since I was in like kindergarten.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, I feel like I totally got away from the topic, but
Yeah.
um, when whiteness is important, do, I feel like it's part of a lot of the courses I'm going through right now, where it's coming up and it's like a blind spot um, that I have, and I can see places in my life where I'm experiencing more privilege than other people. And I do notice it a lot more now that I've moved to Texas, because it's actually really cool. This is like the most diverse place I've ever lived. So, like over Australia, obviously over Ireland, it's not diverse at all. But even like Central America, you just have, more like one group of people. But here, I mean, like in my classes, um, there's two other girls in my cohort, and they're both women of color, and my neighborhood, all my neighbors are different races. You go to the grocery store, you see, like, I don't know, everything you can think of. It's kind of the college bubble, and I think um,
Mm.
Texas is actually quite diverse. So I think about it all the time.
Okay. So you spoke specifically, it sounds more like when you were growing up, from like K to 12, that perhaps like the Jewish side of your identity was more, perhaps it was bigger light was shown on it than just maybe the whiteness. And you can please correct me if I'm wrong with that. But when did you have kind of a better start to have a better understanding of, like, I guess just your context in like the American situation, your repositioning yourself, that you needed to reposition your idea of like who you were, how you're seen, how you get to move about in the world.
Yeah, I think that probably around college. I would say K through 12. My schools were pretty, it's like kind of a city, so I grew up like with friends who were all different religions, different colors. So I didn't really think much about it. I just kind of felt like that was normal. And when
Mm-hmm.
I got to college, um, I was starting to find out that not everyone felt that way.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, it was more in college. I took I think, oh, I can't remember the name of the class, but I would say this this class was on like multiculturalism, and it had like a really global perspective. And I think I cried like every week
Oh
in that
gosh.
class because it would just show like um, what what people were going through. It was talking about you know, like genocides and how, and it showed like skinheads in the US, and I had no idea about that.
Oh gosh.
So
I'm sorry. Let me just pause for a moment. I can't
yeah,
imagine not knowing about skinheads until college.
yeah,
That is crazy.
there were some shelterings. Well, yeah, I grew up in like suburbia, California. So
Wow. That
yeah,
is very interesting.
yeah. So that was probably like a big turning point for me of where like I can't believe people actually feel this way.
Mm.
And like there's also I think just even in the past year that I've learned that I'm like, okay, you are seeing this in a certain way, but you're only getting like this little bit of it.
Mm.
And I think it's constantly being updated, kind of how I'm perceiving whiteness and different cultures and what that really means
Mhm.
for each person, because you can just like I could just be like, yep, I'm privileged, but
Mhm. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like because I've definitely met people who are like, well, I'm white and I grew up poor, so I'm not privileged.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I'm not, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it took time to like get there.
Yeah. And that actually moves into the two things that I do have written down. One of them is understanding your privilege. And so I was just, wanting to hear you go into what that means, what that has meant, and what that is like developing into meaning for you. But then
Mhm.
also, and this is frankly, I was having a conversation with a Black friend, telling her about these conversations,
Mhm.
and it came up. First of all, she was saying that she didn't have as much patience because there's a lot of Black people who are just angry and just want to be like, "What the fuck? Check your people," which brought me to, oh, that's something that I haven't actually brought up explicitly. This idea or this potential responsibility of checking other white women. I also put down checking white men, but I know that like the gender dynamic is this whole other kind of that we need like another hour to do. So, um, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, even though you're in, or you said that you're in a pretty diverse world right now, and that's awesome. Do you feel empowered enough, informed enough, confident enough? Do you feel like it is your responsibility at all to like check your people, as it were, when it comes to this stuff?
Yeah, that's it's a good question, and it's definitely I can tell you I check my white man, which you know about,
Yeah, yeah.
and I have been for
Amen.
years. Um
Yeah.
yeah, which really started with the Women's March back just after Trump was elected, because I
Mm,
the Women's March really represented like so it represented so many different things, not just women. It was like this is a way to say like there's a lot that needs to be changed that's happening right now. And like, he wasn't wanting to come to the march, and I was like, isn't about women. This is about like so many things that we can stand
Yeah.
for. It was about like environmentalism, like different pay, like
Yeah.
respecting women's bodies,
Yeah.
abortion. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you want to
So
be my lover, you gotta get with my friends.
yeah, we were having a lot of those conversations. So in that way, but that's kind of the easiest way
Mhm,
to check my people.
mhm,
And I think it's um it's harder in like on a daily basis. I haven't seen much, which is maybe a result of just me being white and not seeing things.
mhm.
But I think it's also because of COVID, like no one really interacts with each other
Yeah.
if you don't know them. So I haven't seen it. I can say that the campus, Texas A&M, had a training on how to approach racism, and
Mhm,
like they gave vignettes of like, if you're in a situation and you hear someone saying this, and they tried to make it like as cool as possible, and there
mhm.
were Chinese slang and stuff. It was cute. um but at least it's there,
Yeah.
like, and maybe a bunch of people blew it off, but there's an effort being made.
Yeah.
They do have, yeah, there's like a hotline here that if you see racism, you should, in the classroom and on campus, you should report it.
Mhm,
Um, which it's not being followed up with well.
mhm,
But um, we're also trying to figure out how to confront racism in therapy. So when you have a client who's racist, no matter what color you are or they are, um, it's kind of something that as a field they're like, you shouldn't be encouraging this, and you should be trying to get them to a place where they can recognize it and like start
mhm,
to change. How you do that, still a bit of a mystery.
mhm.
Just the fact that it should be confronted, I think, is really good. We've had a few department-wide meetings where we've talked about racism. Unfortunately, I felt like it was, the older people were putting it together, and they were
Mm,
like, someone's saying they're experiencing it, you should believe them.
yeah.
I was like, yeah, is that all we're talking about today? Oh no. Yeah. So I was
Uh,
really taken aback. But we have more to come. They recognize that was just like,
Scratching the surface,
yeah,
testing the water.
right. There's more meetings on the schedule
Yeah.
to discuss that and maybe address it better. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so unfortunately, I wasn't recording when we were talking before, but I think the example you brought up earlier about how, I mean, I can't say it is known, but it is known, and there are plenty of studies that are biased. And so you were recounting one in particular where it's being taught in your class, in a class it was taught to not give a certain ethnicity pain medication because they have a higher pain tolerance. So there's
yeah,
all kinds of things that are wrong with this, that are problematic with this. But what I wanted to really kind of interject here is when we're talking about you see racism, how can we prevent racism? You see racism happening, or if you see a client that's racist, how do we get at this? And what really concerns me, what like fires off my red flags and bells and all of this is this lack of understanding of personhood. the Hispanic patient that you're talking about is still a human. It's not like we're dealing with some alien that came here from some other place that has a completely different genetic makeup.
Mhm.
Like, and so whether you're talking about her or them or your racist client, like there just seems to be this issue of not remembering or acknowledging that we're just all people.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I just
Yeah.
wanted to get that thought out and hear what you had to say
Yeah.
about it. Because
It's
that's why I'm so disturbed right now. Like,
right.
can we just be
Well,
people?
no.
Okay. Okay. Right. Right.
Yeah, I mean that's so I could go really meta on this, but basically there are what we were talking about earlier was a story of and this is by like an anonymous person, but a nurse and a doctor, and the doctor didn't want to prescribe pain medication to a Hispanic patient. And the nurse was Hispanic and was like, he says he's in a lot of pain. He needs, some medication for it. And he was like, no, I did a training on like multicultural medicine. Hispanics have a higher pain tolerance. You don't prescribe them as much pain medication. I took a special training on this, so I know. And she was, challenging him on that. And she's like, I'm Hispanic. I know there's no difference. Like, he needs pain
Yeah.
medication. And the doctor said no. And relied on that training. And I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there already.
Hmm.
I know it for a fact that research is not incorporating diverse populations
Hmm.
because I'm on the side of like researching and recruiting, and it's really hard. Seems like only white people want to come in.
Mm-hmm.
Or have the time or resources to be able to. That's
Hmm.
another part of it. But in terms of like how medicine's being approached, it's created an environment that's like I would say unfriendly to anyone except for the white man. Like
Mm.
I think that women are mistreated in medicine too. I've been
Hmm.
seeing a lot of stories coming out. I mean, like, I know maybe I'm diverging too much. I know
It's okay.
personally, like when I got my IUD put in, it's a small surgery and it's an incision in your cervix, right?
Hmm.
Super painful.
Hmm.
And I called the next day and I was like, I'm in so much pain.
Hmm.
Is it possible to get some medication for this? And they asked if I had a fever or if I was vomiting. Um, and I said no. And they were like, then no. And I said, well, if I did have a fever or I was vomiting, like, could I then get some pain medication? And they said, no, then you would go to the ER.
Right, because those have nothing to do with pain. Sorry.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah. And then when it was about
Wow.
time for me to get it replaced. And I asked beforehand, I was like, do you provide any kind of medication for this? Because
Hmm.
it was very extreme last time. I was like out of commission for
Yeah.
at least a week.
I could never consider IUD. I mean,
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
an option for me.
And they said no, that they don't do that. Um
Wow.
so and I just started wondering like what women do. I do think that women have a higher tolerance for pain and discomfort, which I think is being shown a lot with like mask wearing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I feel like men more often are like, I can't do this. I
Mhm.
can't breathe. I can't handle like any kind of
Discomfort.
discomfort. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and that the man flu, I think that's where that stems from also. It's just like we, because of our biological makeup, we have to suffer more often. So we just get used to it. But that
Mhm.
doesn't mean that we don't need like pain medication or
Yeah.
care. Oh, I feel like I really rambled there. But
It's okay. It's an important thing to bring up because I mean it does really point to this dismissal is generous, but just the lack of energy being put into understanding things that aren't like the white male. So
mhm,
whether we're talking about medicine or just social effects of things, like we can say all kinds of things. I mean, philosophy. This is a reason that I didn't want to go on and study more philosophy because it's just really hard. Like you have to do extra work to find those other studies, to find those other theories, and they are othered
mm,
actively.
yeah,
And there are real effects to this, whether we are withholding uh, medication, withholding treatments, withholding results, withholding just all kinds of stuff. You know, people don't have access to things that are going to make our lives easier, and that's pretty darn fucked up. So
yeah, and the lack of research that's being conducted, looking at, you know, more or less, yes, humans are the same. Like, you can do studies on rats, it's a pretty good indicator of how things will be with us. But at some point, there are there might be nuances. We should explore them.
yeah,
Um, and that's what I was thinking earlier when you were saying you were talking to those women in your class who didn't want to get the COVID vaccine. I was
yeah,
like, well, if you look at the research, you might not see yourself represented in it. So I could see why
yeah,
you would be worried about it.
yeah. And that is like a whole other piece. It's like be worried about it and then do the work of do I want to be the guinea pig? Which
Hmm.
is this whole like that's why there's 10 pages of things to sign before you are the guinea pig. But that's me getting off topic. Um,
I only had one page because I'm in Texas. Oh,
Oh man. Okay,
it's
so the
true.
next official topic is on critical thinking and philosophy. You can pick one or the other or both. And it's just why and when are these important in your life? When do you see that they are important or relevant, personally or professionally?
They're so intertwined, and
Yeah.
I I feel like in terms of critical thinking, it's constantly necessary for me. I do wish that it was addressed more in schools because I
Hmm.
feel like it's something I've only really learned to do in the past few years.
Mm.
Um, but basically, I need to use critical thinking for running analyses, doing research, solving problems. Therapy is like a critical thinking jungle gym. Does not come naturally to me, and pretty much you're like in the moment you're trying to see how people are you're trying to gauge how people are responding to what you're saying. You're trying to phrase something in like the best possible way
Hmm.
at any given moment. And then there's a ton of different types of therapies, and you need to figure out which one to apply. in each moment. So there's like a lot of problem solving going on. There's a lot of taking all the information you learned and just sitting on it in the moments that you do not need to be giving it. So yeah, there's a whole lot going on there. It's been really challenging for me to learn. And I think that's kind of one of the, I mean, if we were going to go into politics, I think that's one of the weaknesses of public education. Guys, I don't know about private education, but I feel like there's so much focus on learning facts and not on applying what you learn. And that has been probably like one of the biggest challenges for me in grad school.
Mm. I wrote down sitting on information that you've learned and not giving it, not sharing it. And that's contextual, but this is like a huge part of critical thinking, which, whether we're talking about politics or so many areas, just like small talk with people, this is something that is very challenging for a lot of people. And I think one of the things that we're taught, maybe kind of culturally, or just it becomes common sense, is that, well, this is maturity. You learn when to say things, you learn when not to say things. But with critical thinking, first there's this emphasis on learning a lot of like useful information, a lot of useful skills, like how to analyze what you're reading, how to discern truth from falsehood, like these kinds of cool things. But then there's like this other piece of critical thinking. It's like, you don't always need all of those truths that you've learned. Sometimes we have to just like keep them inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and someone else is going to get so much more from you not saying
Mm,
everything than from you being like, I know best.
yes.
I have learned best. I'm gonna tell you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of our culture right now, is going that route of like, I'm gonna tell you what's best because I know and you don't
Yeah.
know. And no one likes that. So then no one's listening.
Yeah. I mean, of course, it's one thing, if we were asking, like, "Hey, Tracey, tell me the best thing about," or I don't know, "My therapist did this in session. Does that sound like the best thing she could have done?" Versus, "Hey, Tracey, I'm going to therapy. Okay, let me tell you about how your therapy session should go." Like, that would be two very different
Yeah.
conversations. But yeah, there's a whole lot of this. I'm just going to tell you things. Um,
Well, and
sorry.
it doesn't like make a conversation either.
Yeah,
It kind of shuts people off when you just want to say everything you know.
absolutely. Yeah, it's not a conversation. There's no there's no with there. Um,
Hmm. Love it.
a friend, actually, Richard, he was in a previous episode. He had posted on Facebook recently, um, asking, I guess it was an interview, and it turned into something much bigger because then Facebook comments of his friends happened. But basically, talking to women about their experiences on dates and how many of them, he thought it was just a small amount, and then the comments happened. How many of them have been on a date where basically they didn't say anything for 30 to 60 minutes, and it was just the other person talking? And they're like, and so for him, it's just like, well, how did they not notice? It's not just men doing this, but the
Mhm.
majority was, just the men talking. And so, again, this is something that's relevant, like, to so many arenas in our lives, of just like, we need to know when to sit on information that we have. And I definitely want to add in, like, develop curiosity. about other people. But
Right. Ask some questions. Ask some open-ended questions. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's interesting about the date thing because I have had that experience, but the reason that I did was because I asked one of my friends, who always had a boyfriend, and I was jealous. I was like, How do you get a boyfriend?"
Yeah.
And she was like, "You just act like everything they're saying is the most important thing you've ever heard, and you just ask them about themselves." And it worked, but I did not enjoy it.
Okay.
Yeah, would not recommend that advice.
Yeah, but it works. Okay. Somehow that moves us into existential dilemmas.
All right, I'm ready for it.
That's the response. Frankly, what I have written here are just ellipses. I've stopped trying to formulate a question. So, whatever I've sent you an email, if you could
Mhm.
answer that, if you have any words of wisdom on existential dilemmas or just your
Yes.
general thoughts.
Oh man, I can give you the three I wrote down and you could choose
Yeah,
one. All right.
absolutely. Go for it.
This is like uh game show. All right. So you could choose the category. Um, Awareness versus action. I won't give you more than that.
Okay.
The U.S. systemic issues and the way they are affecting us and the world. Um,
Okay.
Accountability for those in power who have made choices that resulted in mass death.
Good Lord. Okay. Yeah. Worst game show ever.
Existential game show.
I'll take awareness versus action. Yeah, what do you mean
Yes.
by that? I like this.
It's so this is something that has been driving me crazy for I would say a long time, but I would say it really started getting to me with the resurgence of the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mhm.
So I felt like during that time, I do feel like I learned a lot of new things and a lot of really important information on how people are, how like Black people are experiencing the world, how they feel they're being treated, like
Mhm.
not feel they're being treated, how they're being treated,
Mhm.
and I was like, what do I do about this?
Mm.
You know, what can what can I do?
Yeah.
Because I like I'm ready. What
It
is
made you
it?
feel some type of way. It's a
Yeah,
natural
I'm
human
like,
response.
let's like, yes, there is systemic racism. Like, you have been carrying this burden. What do we do about it? And everyone's saying awareness. And I'm like, I am so aware of, I mean, I'm sure I could be more aware, but I am so aware of like,
Yeah.
there are problems here. I am aware of like all the politics, which I wish I wasn't. But,
Mhm.
you're so aware of all of the problems in the world because all the knowledge we have. And at some point, that just doesn't seem to be like naturally leading into solutions.
Mhm.
Like how does that bridge happen? Why do people keep saying it's about awareness? Because
Mhm.
I think like sometimes there are a lot of times that it could help. Um, but at the end of the day, it's not enough.
Mhm.
And yeah, and I just wonder how we can get to like real solutions.
Mhm. That's a legit and important question. How can we get to real solutions? Um And I think, there's people of all ethnicities who are on either side of this coin of, we need to be more aware. We need to be more aware of complexities that go into these events, the complexities of feelings that people have, um, of actual histories, and what that means, of possibilities, how things could be different from one state to another. And so if we do take some action that's going to look different, or it might not even be possible somewhere else. And that feeds into why something was able to happen, say, in an open carry state versus a non open carry state, a state that doesn't have a lot of diversity, and what kinds of atrocities and whatnot they're going to have versus like that. When I think of awareness like that, when I think of like the awareness that I have as a person, as a brown person who's made it this far, um that doesn't feel like I have much power to take like the kind of action that I want to take. Like that's what awareness means to me. It's just so rich and complex, and I feel like that's what a lot of people are talking about. And on another side of this coin, it's like, okay, but clearly, like, none of us want this stuff to continue. I don't want to keep seeing people being killed. I don't want people to feel like they can continue to kill people. I don't want people to be wronged or for there to be inequities. And I don't want to like continue to have identity conversations. I want us like as humans to move past this and evolve and mature and all of this stuff. Um, and action, it seems like, I mean, that's what I was saying in that video the other week, that like whatever power you have, use it. I don't have the power as a legislator, so I can't use that power. I do have power as a yoga instructor, as a person who can
Mhm.
figure out the internet and put these kinds of conversations out that people are not having or are afraid to have or are unaware of. So we have some kind of power, to take some actions. And yeah, to answer like the question that you didn't ask me directly, but it's like that's how,
Mhm.
at least mentally, I respond to this, of like, fuck, I wake up every day wanting something big to have changed, but I know that I don't have the power to make those big changes, and most of the people who are out protesting also don't.
Mhm.
And that's just like the best place that I can be with that. But I think, a lot of people are in this existential dilemma of just like, well, what the fuck? I'm aware. Oh, I'm aware.
Yeah. See
Yeah.
the problem here. I see
Yeah.
it. There it is. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know what that gives to, what that does for you, but that's certainly
Mhm.
how, what it makes me think.
Yeah, and I think there's also like with I guess with like American idealism and American culture, there's the idea of like you're one person, but you can make a difference, and like
Mm,
you maybe you're just not applying yourself enough, and maybe
mm,
like short even if I like dedicated my life to a cause, like what would I
hmm.
change? I don't know. But I do think that um that your point is a really good one, is to use the ways that you have power um to make changes or try to behave in the ways you wish to see in the world. I think
Yeah.
that yeah, I think there's definitely ways that I can do that, but I wish it was more, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't we all? um, like putting some existential dread in me. Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Your
No,
question.
I know, right? Like I literally asked for this. No, that is something that I wanna chew on a bit more, and I like this dichotomy that you've brought up certainly went in a direction that I wasn't sure, didn't know. So thank you. Um,
I feel like I should more apologize than say good luck.
no. It's we're still in 2021. There's only so much you can do.
Right?
I feel like we got to the second one, and I don't want to touch the third one.
Yes. Well, that's fair.
But I do want to give you space because I don't have any other official questions for you. If there's anything else that you would like to share since you have this space.
Yeah, I guess kind of echoing what I said before, I wish there was more that I could do. And oh, I guess there is one thing, because like I'm thinking about everything I said already, and I'm like a little uncomfortable that maybe I've, been offensive at any point or said something wrong. But in one of my classes, or probably in all of them, they talk about being uncomfortable, and that when you're just a little uncomfortable, that's where you learn the best.
Mm,
Um, and I'm
yeah.
finding that a lot. So,
Yeah.
so I think that might be helpful to other people to know, like, yes, these conversations are hard and might be uncomfortable, but embrace the discomfort so that you
Yeah.
can actually grow. And if you're not
Yeah.
uncomfortable, you're probably not growing. Yeah. I'm trying to
Yeah.
live by that. It's hard though.
It is so hard.
Yeah, I know.
I tell you, I'm so happy. I've been doing a meditation teacher training, and it's self-paced, but also just in the general, like, all of yoga, because meditation is part of yoga. It's a lifelong journey, so it's a lifelong practice. It's everything. But I was having some really good days where I'm like, yeah, I've got control over my emotions, and I feel really at peace today. And then, like, wake up the next day and it's like, oh man, I feel like crap today. It's like that's when you have to implement. That's when I have
Right?
to implement the things that I've
Yeah.
learned. It's like every day isn't going to be comfortable, and even just like accepting that thought, that idea is like, well, are you fucking serious? Like, why not? Why do I have
Mhm.
to? Each moment isn't going to be comfortable. Um, that's damn it.
I know. Yeah, it's that, and also, I mean, this is like a little bit off topic, but it's mostly things up.
Everything is everything. It's fine.
I've been trying to track my cycle,
Hmm.
my menstrual cycle.
Hmm.
Um, and and I think that like it's going to help me once I've tracked more. I think it will help me be kinder to myself
Mm,
because your hormones are fluctuating like crazy every
yeah.
month. And I saw something on like how to train your or how to do like physical training better with it, which is why I started tracking. But then I
Mhm.
realized, okay, I'm having a worse week because my
Yeah.
hormones are all over the place. I'm moodier, I'm
Yeah.
bloated. Like,
Yeah.
there's things, I don't know. When you notice the ways that, ooh, for lack of better words, life is kicking you,
Hmm.
it can help you be a little kinder to yourself because you're like, ooh, life is kicking me right now.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna like not beat myself up about it
Hmm.
and accept that this is what's happening. And now that I can like see physical evidence of it.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think
absolutely.
it's a not everything is gonna go right, and as a woman, I feel like my body is working against me. So
No, it's about working with your body. It's about learning how to dodge the kick. We can't dodge the
trying
kick if we
to.
don't know it's coming.
That's true.
Something.
And there's always going to be hard things in life because that's what makes the wonderful things so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feel the pain.
Well, Paul has taught us how to enjoy pain a little bit, right? So
Yeah, I'm thinking it's you sit with it and you accept it, and it if you don't give it all the power, then you'll move on easier.
yeah. Yeah. This is a great way to end. Thank you for these words, for your words and for your energy. I don't think that you said anything offensive. Well, I I
We'll
haven't been
find
offended by
out.
anything, but we'll find out. Yeah.
If I have, that will be a good learning experience for me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just let me know.
Yeah.